In a world where the divide between the rich and the poor often seems insurmountable, there are moments that shake the very foundation of what we think we know about wealth, generosity, and the human spirit. One of those moments happened on an ordinary day when, against all odds, a homeless man did something that no one could have predicted. He walked up to none other than Elon Musk, the billionaire mogul known for revolutionizing everything from space travel to electric cars, and asked for just $1. What would you expect from the world's richest man, as he stands face to face with someone whose very existence represents a world of hardships? A cold rejection? A dismissive wave? Maybe even an awkward silence? But what happened next was far from anything anyone could have anticipated. It was a chance encounter that seemed almost unreal. Elon, often known for his controversial tweets and larger-than-life persona, was in the middle of a busy afternoon when the man, disheveled and worn by the streets, boldly approached him with a request so simple, yet so loaded with meaning. "Hey man, can you spare me $1?" Most people might have ignored him. Some might have walked away, too busy with their own lives. But what Elon Musk did in that split second would change everything. As the world looked on in silence, a powerful tension filled the air. Would he show the harsh, uncompromising side of wealth? Or would he defy expectations, revealing a side of himself no one had ever seen before? Stay tuned, because this encounter isn't just about a homeless man asking for $1. It's about what Elon Musk did next that will shock you, leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about him, and might even inspire you to look at your own life in a completely new way. The encounter took place in a bustling part of Los Angeles, where Elon Musk had just finished a meeting with his SpaceX team. As the world's wealthiest man, with a net worth that fluctuates in the hundreds of billions, he was used to being surrounded by yes-men, investors, and admirers. He was accustomed to having doors open in front of him wherever he went. But that day was different. The man who approached him wasn't looking for a business deal or an autograph. He wasn't interested in fame or social media likes. He simply wanted $1. A single, insignificant dollar in the grand scheme of Musk's fortune. But to the man, this dollar represented hope, the barest shred of a chance at survival. Elon, usually seen as the embodiment of tech and innovation, found himself face to face with a reality he often overlooked. The streets of LA were filled with the desperate and the broken, people whose names never made it into headlines. Yet here was one of them, asking for help in the simplest way possible: $1. As the man spoke those words, there was a brief moment of awkward silence. People around them seemed to freeze, unsure of how to react. The contrast between the billionaire's crisp suit and the man's ragged clothing could not have been starker. For a moment, it felt like the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. Musk's usual public persona is brash, blunt, and occasionally controversial. But in this instance, something shifted within him. He didn't brush the man off like so many others might have. Instead, he paused. His mind, always thinking several steps ahead, seemed to process the moment with a depth that few knew he had. What happened next would stun the onlookers. Instead of pulling out his wallet, Elon didn't make any quick, impulsive decision. He looked the man in the eyes, his gaze piercing yet oddly calm. Then, slowly, he asked a question that seemed to cut through the tension: "What would you do with that $1?" The question wasn't meant to belittle or mock the man. It was a genuine inquiry. Elon, whose wealth had come from years of calculated risks and breakthroughs, knew that $1 could be so much more than just a piece of paper. It could represent an opportunity, a future, a glimmer of possibility. The homeless man, startled by the unexpected response, hesitated for a moment. He wasn't sure how to answer. After all, he was just trying to survive, day by day. But then, after a few moments of thought, he said, "Maybe I could get some food, or find a way to get back to my family." His voice was shaky, but there was hope there. Hope that something as small as $1 could change the course of his life, even if just for one day. Elon nodded. His expression softened, the usual hardness of his face replaced by something more human. "I understand," he said quietly. But instead of handing over just $1, something even more remarkable happened. Musk took out his phone, opened up a digital payment app, and in a few swift motions, transferred a much larger sum to the man's account. The onlookers gasped, and for a moment, the world seemed to stop. This wasn't just a billionaire tossing $1 to a homeless man. This was Elon Musk, a man who had built a legacy on creating the future, deciding to impact someone's present in a profound, immediate way. But it didn't end there. Elon, now visibly moved by the encounter, began talking to the man. He asked him about his story, how he ended up on the streets, what he dreamed of doing, and what had led him to that moment. The homeless man shared a heartbreaking tale of losing his job, his family, and falling through the cracks of a system that didn't care. But through it all, there was still a spark in his eyes, the kind of spark that made Elon see beyond the surface. Elon didn't just give the man money. He gave him something far more valuable: his time. In a world that constantly demands more and more, where billionaires are often seen as detached, disconnected, and oblivious, Elon Musk took a moment to simply listen. It was an act so rare, so human, that it left everyone around them speechless. And the man, still in shock, whispered, "Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me." Elon simply replied, "It's not about what it means to me. It's about what it means to you." The crowd that had gathered around them began to disperse, their murmurs of disbelief fading into the background. But for those who had witnessed this unexpected act of kindness, something profound had shifted. What had begun as a simple request for $1 had transformed into a moment of genuine connection, of two people from worlds apart finding common ground. Elon Musk had shown the world that his wealth, his power, and his influence were not just tools for innovation. They could also be used to uplift those who needed it the most. The homeless man had asked for $1, but what he received was something far more valuable: the acknowledgement of his humanity. And in that fleeting, powerful moment, both men were changed. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the city, a ripple of disbelief spread through the crowd. People stood in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Elon Musk, the man who had once made headlines for sending rockets into space and reshaping the electric car industry, had done something no one expected. But what came next would leave everyone in the crowd breathless, their minds racing with questions and awe. The moment seemed to hang in the air, suspended between two worlds. On one side, you had Elon Musk, the billionaire tech magnate, who had just handed a struggling man a life-altering sum of money. On the other side, the homeless man, who had only asked for $1 but now found himself facing a profound change that he couldn't have dreamed of. Then, as the crowd's murmurs grew louder, something unexpected happened. The homeless man, still overwhelmed by Elon's generosity, broke down in tears. His voice, barely above a whisper, trembled as he spoke. I didn't think anyone cared. I didn't think anyone saw me." Elon, still calm and collected, stepped forward and placed a hand on the man's shoulder. The crowd watched in rapt silence as the billionaire leaned in, his voice steady and reassuring. "I see you. I see you more than you think." It was a simple statement, but its impact was profound. In that moment, the billionaire was no longer just a symbol of wealth and power. He was something more. He wasn't a distant figure of untouchable privilege. He was a man, a fellow human being, reaching out to another who had been forgotten by society. In a world that often turns a blind eye to those in need, Elon Musk had chosen to step forward and offer not just money, but dignity. But the true turning point came when Elon spoke again. The crowd, now completely silent, hung on every word he said. "This isn't just about $1. It's about recognizing that every person, no matter their circumstances, has potential. The real question is, what are we doing to help unlock that potential?" The words hung in the air, their weight sinking in. The audience, who had initially gathered to witness a quick transaction between a billionaire and a homeless man, were now grappling with something much bigger, a challenge. Elon was calling on everyone around him, not just the man standing before him, but everyone within earshot, to see the world differently. To recognize that behind every face, there is a story. And behind every story, there is a human being worthy of compassion, respect, and opportunity. But just as the crowd began to process Elon's words, the unthinkable happened. The homeless man, still shaking from the emotional exchange, stepped back. His eyes were wide with realization, and for a brief moment, there was a flicker of something new in his gaze: hope. But then, in an instant, he turned toward Elon with a desperate look on his face. "But what about the rest of us?" he asked, his voice cracking. "What about all the others who are still out here, who are still forgotten? What can we do for them?" Elon paused. The question hung in the air, an urgent call for action. It was no longer just about one man, one act of kindness. It was about the bigger issue, the systemic problems that left so many people in despair. Elon knew that this moment, as significant as it was, wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. And that's when Elon's response stunned everyone even more. He looked at the homeless man, his eyes filled with an intensity that matched the gravity of the question. "You're right," he said. "This isn't just about $1 or one person. It's about a system that has failed too many. We need to do more than give money. We need to create change." In that moment, Elon's words took on a life of their own. The audience, who had been silently observing, now felt the urgency in his voice. They understood that this wasn't just a one-off moment of charity. This was a call to action. And for the first time, Elon Musk was speaking not just as a businessman, but as a leader calling for systemic change. He didn't just promise to give more, though. He didn't offer some empty reassurance or a token donation. Instead, Elon vowed to use his influence, his companies, and his platforms to create real change, to address the root causes of homelessness, poverty, and inequality. He pledged to create jobs, fund initiatives, and drive innovation that would provide opportunities for those who had long been overlooked. As the man wiped the tears from his eyes, a new understanding seemed to take root between them. They weren't just two individuals standing in a crowded street. They were now connected by something greater, a shared mission to challenge the status quo and build a future where no one is left behind. The crowd erupted in applause, but the sound didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like the beginning of something much bigger, something more profound. Elon Musk, in his own way, had created a moment of transformation, not just for the homeless man, but for everyone who had witnessed it. The billionaire had taken a simple, everyday encounter and turned it into a call for empathy, innovation, and societal change. And as the man stood there, gazing up at Elon, a look of renewed hope on his face, the crowd realized that this wasn't just a random act of kindness. This was the beginning of a movement that would reshape how we see wealth, success, and our collective responsibility to one another. And as Elon Musk walked away, the words he had shared lingered in the air, echoing in the hearts of all who had been touched by the moment. It's not about money. It's about potential. And it's about time we start unlocking it for everyone. As the crowd slowly began to disperse, their faces still illuminated by the fading golden light of the evening, something remarkable had shifted within them. They weren't just walking away from an encounter, they were carrying a new weight in their hearts. A weight of understanding. A weight of responsibility. What had started as a simple moment between a billionaire and a man in need had evolved into a powerful message. Elon Musk's words echoed in their minds, stirring something deep inside. It's not about money. It's about potential. These weren't just words of wisdom from a successful entrepreneur, they were a call to action for everyone who had heard them. A call to see the world with fresh eyes and act with compassion. But this wasn't just about the people in the crowd or the homeless man. It was about everyone who would hear this story. Everyone who would witness the transformative power of one simple act of kindness. Elon Musk, for all his fame and fortune, had shown that real power doesn't lie in wealth alone. It lies in the ability to change lives, to create opportunities, and to inspire others to do the same. In the days that followed, news of the encounter spread far and wide. Articles, videos, and interviews discussed the moment, each one emphasizing the profound impact it had. People from all walks of life reached out, inspired to take action in their own communities. Some donated to charities, others volunteered their time, and many began conversations about how they, too, could help address the systemic problems that led to poverty and homelessness. For the homeless man, life had been forever altered. What began as a humble request for $1 had transformed into a turning point in his life. With the help of Elon Musk's influence and his promise to create real change, he found himself not just receiving a gift, but receiving a chance at a new life. He was given a job, a place to stay, and most importantly, hope, a hope that he could once again contribute, be valued, and become part of a community. And as for Elon, he didn't stop there. Behind the scenes, he quietly worked to implement the changes he had spoken of. His companies began developing programs to address homelessness, providing training and employment opportunities for those struggling to find a way out. It wasn't just charity, it was a systemic shift, a commitment to using his influence for something greater than himself. The true beauty of this story lies not in the act itself, but in the ripple effect it created. That one moment, that one exchange between two men from opposite ends of society, ignited something far bigger than anyone could have imagined. It awakened people to the fact that real change requires action, not just empathy, and that each of us has the power to contribute in meaningful ways. As the final notes of the evening played out and the stars began to twinkle above, the lessons from that fateful encounter remained ever present. It reminded everyone who heard the story that no matter who we are, no matter how small or big our actions may seem, we all have the ability to make a difference. The challenge wasn't just to look at someone and feel sympathy, but to actively ask, how can I help unlock their potential? How can I be part of the change that is so desperately needed? The world had been given a rare opportunity to witness not just a billionaire's wealth, but his willingness to use it for the common good. And as Elon Musk continued to rise in his endeavors, the message he had shared that day would remain an enduring reminder that the most powerful tool we have is not our bank accounts or our status, but our ability to recognize, nurture, and unlock the potential in others. So, the next time you encounter someone in need, whether on the streets or in your life, remember, it's not just about giving $1. It's about giving a future. It's about seeing the person, not the circumstances. And, most importantly, it's about understanding that every human being has untapped potential waiting to be unlocked. As Elon Musk had so simply yet profoundly said, it's about potential. And it's about time we start unlocking it for everyone. The world had just taken its first step towards something greater. And it was up to all of us to continue that journey.